So where did all this pride start? Well, it started with Satan. And I want to read you the scripture out of Deuteronomy 28. And this is really talking about Satan. All right, we're getting it going here. Satan, this is the scripture about Satan. It's found in Ezekiel 28:11. I'm going to read this first, and then we're going to go to the first verse in Ezekiel 28, and we'll come back. But I want you to see, first of all, where did pride start? It started with Satan. Moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, take up a lamentation upon the king of Tyrus, and say unto him, Thus saith the Lord, Thou sealest up the sum full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. Now this is talking about the way Satan was when he was created. He was beautiful. He did have a lot of wisdom. He had a lot of beauty. But sometimes the very things, the gifts that God gives us can be our downfall. Take, for instance, a person that has a wonderful voice. You can become proud of that voice when really what we should be proud of is God gave us this gift and we're using it to bring glory to Him. With any gift that we're given. Satan wasn't that way. Verse 13, Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was thy covering, the sardius, topaz, the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, and the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of thy tabrets and thy pipes was prepared in thee in the day that thou wast created. So God created this cherub. He was an anointed cherub at one time, and He created him really special. Now, when you go back and you look up some of these words, when it talks about pipes, originally, pipes, if you go back and look it up, it really was something that held these stones in place on his breast. He doesn't have pipes, ranging out of it. I mean, you can read this language and you say, well, this guy's got pipes. No, he doesn't have pipes coming out of his body. But he was created with this thing that could hold those stones in place. And those 9 stones were the same stones that the high priest wore, minus 3 stones. There were 12 stones on the breastplate of the high priest, and these were 9 of those stones. And let's see, let me keep going. The workmanship of his tabrets. Tabrets, what that is like one of those, what do you call them? Tambourine, right. So he was created with some type of tambourine right on his body that he could sound. And he was the head of worship. So he had a high place, had a good opportunity to become prideful and lift himself up above what God had said. Verse 14, Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so. Who set him there in this high place? God did. So he should have been thanking God for what God did instead of saying, look at me. Thou hast upon the holy mountain of God, and hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of the fire. So this is talking about in heaven. He was on the holy mountain of God, and he walked up and down in the midst of the stones of the fire. Verse 15, Thou hast perfect in thy ways from the day that thou was created. In other words, God doesn't make junk. He created Satan perfectly. But yet, with a free will, just like he created us, with a free will, that we could either keep God's commandments or not keep God's commandments. That was our choice and his choice. Then it says, till iniquity was found in thee. What is iniquity? It is evil doings was found in him. So he was perfect until he's tried to exalt himself above God. By the multitude of thy merchandise, they have filled the midst of thee with violence. So we can see what happens when we lift ourselves up. We're actually letting violence come in. And you can see that today, can't you? There's a lot of violence because of people in their prideful positions. And thou hast sinned, therefore I will cast thee as profane out of the mountain of God, that's in heaven, and he was cast out of that mountain. And I will destroy thee, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of the fire. So we see when pride comes, it was demise of Satan. That is where it all started, right there. Thine heart was lifted up because of thy beauty. Thou hast corrupted thy wisdom by reason of their brightness. In other words, he was very handsome and good looking, had all these beautiful things. And he decided, hey, look at me. Maybe God shouldn't have created mirrors that we can look and say, oh, look at me. Maybe it'd been better that we didn't have mirrors. But he looked at himself and he said, look at this. This is so good. I got all these stones and I got these tambourines that I can play all the time. And wow. So his heart was lifted up because of his beauty. Thou corrupted thy wisdom. See, when you lift yourself up, you are corrupting your own wisdom. You're going against what God is saying by reason of thy brightness. And I will cast thee to the ground. I will lay thee before kings that they may behold thee. So that is the end of Satan there. Verse 18, thou hast defiled thy sanctuaries by the multitude of thine iniquities. What was the multitude of his iniquities? Well, he went around and said, hey, to other angels, and he said, look at me. I got this figured out better than God does. If you guys will just follow me, I'll make you a god. That's a little God, a little g, a little o, a little d. You know what that means? Little g, little o, little d. That you can be God of your own life if you want to. You can say, I believe this, but I don't believe that, even though God says this is what it should be. So you can be your own God, but you won't be like big G, big O, big D. You'll be a little God deciding what's good and evil for yourself. That is pride. That is saying, hey, I know better than God. So it leads to all kinds of sin when we do that, when we lift ourselves up thinking we are smarter than our Maker. By the iniquity of thy traffic. So he went around and he coerced and convinced a third of the angels to turn against God and attack the throne of God. And I'm sure that didn't happen in 15 minutes. That took a long while. And I guarantee you God was watching the whole thing. And God was saying, well, let's see what happens. Maybe this is a good way for me to figure out who loves me and wants to keep my commandments and who hates me and thinks he's smarter than I am. So God let this go on. For how long, the Bible doesn't say, but I'm sure it must have gone on for a long time. And then when they attacked the throne of God, that's when he was cast out of the mountain of God. And God, told him what his end would be in the scripture. That at the beginning of the millennial reign of Christ, he'll be cast down into hell, And then at the end of the 1,000 years, he'd be loosed a little while to do what? To traffic some more of his garbage, to see who on earth will rebel against God and who will be true. So it's the same story over and over again. Therefore, I will bring forth a fire from the midst of thee, and it shall devour thee, and I will bring thee to ashes upon the earth in the sight of all them that behold thee. All they that know thee among the people shall be astonished at thee. Why? Because they'll be saying, is this the man that brought all this sin to the earth? So they're not going to be looking proudly on him. They're going to be saying, is this the man that caused all these problems? And he'll be disgraced. And I will bring thee to ashes upon the earth in the sight of all them that behold thee. All they that know thee among the people shall be astonished at thee. Thou shalt be a terror, and never shalt thou be any more. So there is an end that pride can bring.